You're listening to KSG Podcast. This is a short, crisp, concise, exam-oriented, edited editorial for civil services aspirants. In this podcast, we are going to talk about the CEEW study on forest fire. Source for the content is SIMRIN SIRUR's article for the print. In a worrying indication of climate change, the occurrence of intense forest fires has risen tenfold in India in the past 2 decades, according to a new study. India ranked 7th among countries most impacted by climate change in 2019, according to the Global Climate Risk Index, and now a study by the Council on Energy, Environment and Water, that is CEEW, has found that India's forests are a major casualty. Released on the 7th of April 2022, the study found 36% of India's forest cover falls in zones that are vulnerable to intense forest fires. The frequency and intensity of these forest fires, measured by the number of incidents and total area burnt, among other criteria, has steadily increased between 2000 and 2019, according to the study. Now, the study found that while there were 3,082 forest fires across states in 2000, the number went up to almost 30,947 in 2019. Forest fires also led to deterioration in air quality. Districts in Andhra Pradesh, Odisha, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Uttarakhand, Telangana, and nearly every state in the northeast, with the exception of Sikkim, are among the worst affected, it found. It is evident that climate change is causing fire-favorable weather. Hot temperatures, low humidity, and increased dry spells, said the study, adding, while forests can mitigate and reverse climate change impacts, there is no denying that climate-proofing forests is the need of the hour. A 2021 study by CEEW has found that most districts in India were vulnerable to climate change, marking an increased frequency and intensity of droughts, floods, and cyclones. What we have tried to demonstrate with this study is that climate change has made it more conducive for forest fires to spread, whatever be the source. The study developed a forest fire roster across 2 decades using several global and national data sets, 2000 to 2009 and 2010 to 2019. These were then cross-validated using satellite imagery from the Moderate Resolution Imaging Spectroradiometer Sensor, that is MODIS. Since the MODIS sensor is unable to distinguish a forest fire from crop burning, waste burning, and other smaller fires that may occur, the Forest Survey of India's classification of forest fire proneness was also used to help identify areas frequently exposed to forest fires. For example, an extremely fire-prone forest area is where there has been an average of more than 4 fires per year in a measured area. The researchers further analyzed spatio-temporal data across the 2 decades to identify district-level hotspots and rule out small-scale or non-forest fires. Tropical moist deciduous forests, followed by tropical dry deciduous forests, are most vulnerable to forest fires, according to the study. Rising temperatures primarily leads to an increased dry season and dry spells, making the land and soil drier and more vulnerable to forest fires, said the study. Globally, temperatures have already risen 1.1 degrees above pre-industrial levels. In India, the rise in temperature has been 0.6 degrees since the year 1907. Of the over 192 districts in India that are vulnerable to extreme forest fires, 89% are in areas that are drought-prone or display what is termed a swamping trend, when traditional flood-prone areas become increasingly drought-prone. This confirms that drought or drought-like conditions are marked with increased dry spells, which in turn ignite the flames of forest fires, the study says. Some of the districts that show a swamping trend and are vulnerable to intense forest fires are Kandhamal in Odisha, Shiopur in Madhya Pradesh, Udham Singh Nagar in Uttarakhand, and East Godavari in Andhra Pradesh. India has pledged to create enough forest and tree cover to absorb 2.5 to 3 billion tons of carbon dioxide by 2030. It has also pledged to restore 26 million hectares of degraded forests by the same year. Promises that are unlikely to be fulfilled unless forest fires are being managed, warned the study. The study recommended making forest fires a disaster type under the National Disaster Management Act, which it said will enhance and strengthen the national plan on forest fires by improving its financial allocation and creating a cadre of trained forest fighters under the National Disaster Response Force, or the NDRF, and State Disaster Response Force. The CEEW study added that forest fire alert systems should be developed for forest fires only, as opposed to detecting all kinds of fires, which which distorts the data collected. It also recommended improving air quality monitoring in forest fire prone areas and increasing the adaptive capacity of forest departments and local communities to deal with an increase in fires. Not all experts, however, agreed that classifying forest fires as disasters under the NDMA will be an effective mechanism to address the problem, since most forest fires are man-made, caused by things like stubble burning, jhum cultivation, or water management. While it's true that dry spells have increased, it's important to remember that most fires in India start because of humans. So, in that sense, it isn't a natural disaster. Mitigating forest fires are about awareness and participation and restoring the sense of ownership local communities have over forests. The intensity of forest fires also depend on the maximum temperature reached by the fire, as well as whether it is a surface fire or ground fire, in addition to the extent of area burnt and frequency as identified in the CEEW report. That's it for this podcast. Thank you so much for listening. To join KSG India courses and to crack the IELTS exam, visit ksgindia.com. You can also get a PDF of this podcast on ksgindia.com. Thanks for listening and do subscribe to our channel.